They weren't born to rule. They were born to end everything. And the gods knew it. That's why they chained them, cursed them, and cast them into darkness. But every cruel choice they made became the very thing that would destroy them. Tonight, we uncover the most tragic mistake in Norse mythology, how Odin and the gods turned 3 innocent children into the apocalyptic forces that will devour them at Ragnarok. This isn't just about monsters. It's about the moment divine wisdom became divine stupidity. You'll understand why Loki's revenge was always inevitable. Deep in Jotunheim's frozen wasteland, where reality bends and nightmares take shape, a forbidden love affair was about to doom the cosmos. The mother of monsters, not a mindless giant, but a seeress of terrifying wisdom, lay with Loki in his true form. Not the charming god of Asgard, but the shape-shifting force of chaos who could whisper impossible things into existence. Their union wasn't born from lust. It was fate manifesting itself through flesh and desire. 3 children would emerge from this coupling, each one a living prophecy, each one destined to bring about the twilight of the gods. But here's what the sagas don't tell you. These weren't monsters from birth. They were children, and the gods made them into destroyers. The first child didn't crawl from the womb. It flowed like liquid shadow, coiling and growing with each breath. Jörmungandr, the world serpent, born with eyes like dying stars and a hunger that could never be satisfied. As the serpent grew, encircling mountains and drinking entire lakes, Heimdall brought word to Odin, Allfather. There is a creature in the outer realms. Soon it will encircle Midgard itself. Odin's response reveals everything about divine arrogance. Instead of trying to understand this child, instead of seeking wisdom about its purpose, he acted from pure fear. World ocean, believing distance would solve the problem. But prophecy is patient. The serpent was meant to be in the sea. It grew in the depths, feeding on cosmic forces, waiting for the day it would grow large enough to bite its own tail and poison the sky itself. Odin didn't prevent Ragnarok, he set it in motion. The second child was perhaps the most tragic of all. Fenrir wasn't born as a mindless beast. He was a wolf who could speak, reason, and feel. A thinking predator with the capacity for both love and devastating betrayal. The gods, terrified by prophecies that this wolf would one day devour Odin himself, made a decision that would haunt them forever. Instead of killing Fenrir, which they couldn't, they chose to raise him in Asgard, believing they could control his destiny. Only one god showed him genuine kindness, Tyr, the one-handed god of war. Tyr fed Fenrir, trained with him, and became something the wolf had never known, a friend. But as Fenrir grew larger and stronger, so did the gods' paranoia. The gods commissioned the dwarves to create the impossible, a chain made from things that shouldn't exist. Gleipnir, woven from the sound of a cat's footstep, the roots of mountains, the breath of fish, the beard of women, the spittle of birds, and the sinews of bears. When they approached Fenrir with this game, the wolf's intelligence immediately recognized the trap. He could smell their fear, taste their deception. So he made a demand that would expose their true nature. If this is truly harmless, let one of you place their hand in my mouth while you bind me. The silence that followed was deafening. Every god stepped back, except Tyr, the war god. Knowing what would happen, placed his hand between those massive jaws. It was an act of courage, friendship, and inevitable sacrifice. When the binding proved unbreakable and Fenrir realized the betrayal, he did what any thinking creature would do when friendship becomes treachery. He bit down. Tyr's hand was severed, and with it the gods lost something more valuable than flesh. They lost their honor. Fenrir was chained on a desolate island. A sword rammed through his jaws to keep them open, saliva forming a river of pain. Even in agony, he dreams. And in those dreams, he remembers friendship turned to betrayal. The third child was the strangest, neither fully alive nor completely dead. Hel appeared as a young woman, beautiful on one side, rotting corpse on the other. She could see death before it arrived, speak to souls before they departed, and command the allegiance of those who died not in glorious battle, but in weakness, sickness, and old age. The gods, disturbed by her dual nature, banished her to Niflheim, the realm of the dishonored dead. They gave her dominion over those they considered worthless, the old, the sick, the weak. In their arrogance, they thought they were solving a problem. Instead, they were handing their executioner the keys to an army. Here's what modern interpretations miss. The gods weren't protecting the cosmos from monsters. They were creating the very destroyers they feared. Every act of divine wisdom was actually cosmic stupidity. Think about it logically. If you knew a child was destined to become dangerous, would you torture them, abandon them, and fill them with justified rage? Or would you try to guide them toward a different path? The gods chose cruelty disguised as necessity. They saw prophecy not as a warning to change their behavior, but as a problem to be solved through violence and abandonment. Odin, who had sacrificed his eye for wisdom, who had hung himself on Yggdrasil for knowledge, who drank from Mimir's well of cosmic understanding. He knew better. He had seen the end in visions. He knew that every action taken against these children would guarantee their future revenge. But here's the most chilling detail. Odin let it happen anyway, because deep in his one remaining eye, he believed Ragnarok wasn't a failure. It was necessary. A cosmic reset, a purge that would burn away the corruption and create something new. He just hoped he could delay it long enough to prepare. Meanwhile, Loki watched from the shadows as his children were torn from him. The trickster god, master of masks and deception, felt something he had rarely experienced: pure, undiluted grief. And grief, in a being of Loki's power, becomes something far more dangerous. He began to whisper to his children across the realms. To Jörmungandr, coiled in the world ocean, "Grow strong, my son. Your time will come. To Hel in her death realm, gather the forgotten dead, my daughter. They will have their day. Gather the forgotten dead, my daughter. They will have their day." On the night Fenrir was finally bound, a storm raged across all 9 realms. Lightning split the sky, and in every flash the future could be seen. A wolf breaking free, a serpent rising from the depths, and an army of the dead marching under a half-rotted banner. Odin stood alone on a wind-swept cliff, feeling the weight of cosmic inevitability. In the thunder, he heard something that chilled even the All-Father's blood. Not a roar of rage, not a scream of vengeance, but a whisper. You made them into what you feared. Every chain, every banishment, every act of divine cruelty. You wrote the script for your own destruction. Lightning illuminated a figure, walking away in the distance. Loki, no longer the laughing trickster, but something older and more terrible. A father whose children had been tortured by those he once called friends. His eyes glowed with the light of burning worlds, and his smile was carved from pure grief, transformed into patient, eternal rage. The gods had tried to prevent their doom by creating it, and Loki, he would make sure they never forgot the lesson. The birth of beasts wasn't about monsters spawning from chaos. It was about gods so terrified of prophecy that they became the agents of their own destruction. Every cruel choice, every act of divine justice, every decision made from fear rather than wisdom, it all led to the same inevitable end. Jörmungandr grows stronger in the depths, dreaming of the day he'll poison the sky. Fenrir strains against bonds that grow weaker with each passing year. Remembering friendship turned to betrayal. Hel gathers the armies of the forgotten dead, preparing for the war that will remake existence itself. And somewhere in the shadows, Loki waits, patient, grieving, and absolutely certain that when Ragnarok finally comes, the gods will remember exactly how they created their own destroyers. The children weren't born to end the world. They were made into world enders by the very beings who claimed to protect it. Next episode, how Loki's final transformation begins. The moment the trickster god becomes the enemy of everything he once loved. Don't miss it.